So using this equation on the upper left right here, I'm projecting that we need to win at least 99 games in order to make it to the postseason. We need to score at least 814 runs in order to win those games and allow no more than 645 runs.
What's this?
This is the code that I've written for our year-to-year projections. This is building in all the intelligence that we have to project players.
Okay.
It's about getting things down to one number. Using the stats the way we read them, we'll find value in players that nobody else can see. People are overlooked for a variety of biased reasons and perceived flaws. Age, appearance, personality. Bill James and mathematics cut straight through that. Billy, of the 20,000 notable players for us to consider, I believe that there is a championship team of 25 people that we could afford because everyone else in baseball undervalues them. Like an island of misfit toys.
I gotta admit something. It's been on my chest for about 3 days, and I've been wondering how I'm gonna tackle this. And it's embarrassing. But I have to just get it off my chest. I have been thinking for a couple of days very intently about why I was so dismissive of Darko initially when I heard about him as a candidate. Heard all the positive stuff, knew he was from Chachuk. Obviously, I've spent a great deal of my life trying my best to eradicate the bias that exists against people for whom English is a second language. I'll share something very briefly with you guys that when I was doing a lot of the housing stuff that I was doing for the fraternity that I was a part of, I oversaw like property management stuff. I would disproportionately feel a sense of empathy towards Eastern European people because I knew that they didn't fit into any neat box. You couldn't necessarily call them an ethnic minority. They weren't a visible minority, at least. They're white. Like Polish people are white, Czech people are white, Serbian people are white. So you don't get any plus points for that. It's not like you're supporting someone who's a visible minority. And sometimes, maybe there's a bias where you don't want to mispronounce someone's name. There's like 18 syllables or something in someone's name, and subconsciously we overlook that person. When I saw Darko's Memphis presser, I was about a minute into it, and something about his voice, the way that he looked, the fact that English was very difficult for him, it made me think about how much more charismatic someone like Jordi Fernandez was. It made me think about how much better spoken someone like Becky Hammond might be in an interview setting. I started thinking about 8-hour interviews in which someone for whom English is a second language is going to have to put into deep idea and deep thought what he's going to do with this roster. Complex ideas being expressed in language that is not your own. And I failed him. Yes, indeed. I found myself being racist against myself because I thought there's no way in hell that he is going to dazzle Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster the way that Steve Nash can, or the way that JJ Redick can, or the way Ime Udoka can. That's what I thought. Yesterday, we were doing a live about Darko, and someone said he looks like Gru, from Despicable Me. He does, doesn't he? A little bit. You think about it. You got this guy, he's very hyper. He's very excitable. Sometimes mumbles his words, jumbles his syllables, repeats himself a few too many times because, again, English is a second language. And you just wonder in this moment how difficult it will be for someone like this to impress in an interview setting. I failed him on that. Why do we do this? I think we all do this. Someone like Popeye Jones is a really great example of someone who may, on surface, look a little funny. Let's just be honest, right? There are people for a variety of reasons that get overlooked by the vast majority of us. They're too short. They're too tall. They speak with an accent. They have a lisp. They say a lot. They have crooked teeth. They have bad skin. They have scars on their face. Too many syllables in their name. Maybe they come from a country that we don't necessarily associate with very positively. Maybe they're not very well spoken. They say nah mean a lot. Maybe they just speak a different lingo, different vernacular, and we judge them. We call them inarticulate. We call them smart or dumb. We grow up understanding that people who went to university are generally smarter than people who didn't go to university. We have grown up understanding that symmetrical faces, left and right, all symmetrical, top down, symmetrical, proportionate faces are more attractive than non-symmetrical or non-balanced faces. We've grown up assuming that being taller is better than being shorter. We've grown up, if you're from, an Asian country, or, if you grew up in the deep South or whatever, you've grown up thinking that certain ethnicities or certain, skin colors are more favorable than other skin colors. Even in the Black community, there's all sorts of shadeism where, I've heard, Black friends of mine say that they wanted a girl who was lighter skinned. These are all biases that are baked into our daily readings of people. And how do we see past our biases? That's a challenge. Now here, I find myself being biased against myself because, again, I assumed that there's no way in an interview setting that someone who speaks the way he speaks on first glance, first impression, like the first snap judgment about him. I'm not talking you listen to him for an hour, you be dazzled. But get past that first instance. How many people do you meet at a party where you write them off within 5 seconds? 5 seconds. They open their mouth, they have bad breath, you're done. They open their mouth and maybe, there's a pitch to their voice, there's a tonality. You know what I mean? There's a look to them. Maybe you don't like the clothes that they're wearing. Maybe there's like a rip on their shirt. And someone taught you when you were younger that if you're not prim and proper and you have rips on your clothes and you go out, then you're a bum. And you just judge them. You judge them and you move on. And everything they say from that point on is peppered with the context of your anchoring bias and what you first saw. Masai Ujiri is someone who speaks multiple languages and probably is someone who early on in his career was overlooked for a variety of reasons, likely due to racism and cultural bias. And what he's done in Toronto is he has built a monument to the counter balance to thinking that way. And you look at someone like Bobby Webster. When Bobby Webster was hired, Bobby Webster looked like a 22-year-old. I think a lot of people those older people probably looked at him and said, no, this guy's too young to be a general manager. Masai Ujiri didn't think so. Masai Ujiri thought, this is my guy. He's super smart. If I don't take him now, someone's going to take him in a couple of years. He's going to become one of the best executives in the league, which he has. Someone like, I want to talk about this very briefly. This Jalen Suggs, Scotty Barnes thing. All the media members were just all about Jalen Suggs, right? All about Jalen Suggs. Why? Without any context of knowing who these players are, don't watch a single game. Watch a 5-minute interview with Jalen Suggs pre-draft. Watch a 5-minute interview with Scotty Barnes pre-draft. And say, if you didn't know anything else about these two guys, on the eye test, on the ear test, Who sounded like they were going to be more successful? Who matched up more with your perceptions of success, whether those perceptions are from how Steve Jobs sounded or how Bill Gates sounded? Look into all of the biases that colored your perspective on Scotty Barnes and Jalen Suggs. Think about it. Why did you think that Cade Cunningham was going to be better than Scotty Barnes? And why did the Raptors not agree with you? Why was it said that the Raptors would be the organization that would give Becky Hammon a real shot? Like, not a token shot, not a, oh, look how woke we are, we're giving a woman a real chance. Why do you think that for 2 lives and for about 2 straight weeks, I really thought that she was going to be ahead? She was going to be the person that they were going to choose. Because if there was ever an organization that could look past all of the stupid stuff that didn't matter, it was this team. And if there was ever a person who was going to lead that team, it would be Masai Ujiri. You look at a Pascal Siakam, right? Picked up basketball late. He's older. You look at a Fred VanVleet. He's short. He's undersized. He has small arms. How do you see the greatness within people when everyone misses it? I think it comes down to some of the philosophies that are explored in Moneyball. I think it comes down to listening to what people are saying and seeing people for who they really are. I think we could all be better served in our lives if we could adopt this own mentality. Because I believe, as I reflect back on my life, how many people have I been on a date with where I wrote them off for a reason that was completely superfluous and totally stupid? And maybe I missed out on a really great person. You know, for the longest time, now I'm not that tall. I'm like 5'10 and a half, 5'11. I've always had this idea that the girl I wanted to be with had to be at least 5'8, 5'9. I wanted tall kids. I wanted my kids to be able to play basketball. It sounds stupid to admit that on a live, but it's always been how I've viewed it. And for the most part, every person I've dated has been around that height, 5'8, 5'9, 5'10, 5'11. Even dated someone who was 6 feet tall. I've always had that bias. It's a pretty stupid bias. And it's probably like a freaking fantastic 5'5" girl that I just overlooked for some reason. And how many women have probably looked over me for the same reason? How many women out there are like, nah, it's got to be a 6'1" guy or bust. He's got to have straight teeth or bust. He's got to be white or he's got to be black. He's got to be this. He's got to be that. He's got to have 2 parents. Growing up in government housing, you get overlooked for a lot of shit. To be honest, like when people hear where you come up, when people see your address, especially when the building you're living in has a reputation for a lot of bad kids, not bad kids, but troubled kids, a lot of shootings. It's always in the news for all the damn wrong reasons. It's right next to a police station, et cetera, et cetera. You start to get labeled and people start to look at you funny and they start to assume that because you come from that place, that you are that place. I've mentioned this about the Serbia thing too. When you tell people that you're born in the former Yugoslavia, like you almost feel embarrassed. You almost feel like you want to lie about that because everything that's happening on the TV about this place is bad. I had friends of mine who were, really embarrassed or ridiculed a lot for admitting that they were from Afghanistan, especially around 9/11. They didn't want to have an association with being Middle Eastern because everyone had a bias against Middle Eastern people around 9/11. Everyone's looking at them funny. Like everyone's looking at them funny. Suddenly random locker searches. You know what I mean? These are biases that we need to examine in our day-to-day lives, but also, the people that are at the top are there for a reason because someone put them there. Nobody got to the top by themselves. Masai Ujiri didn't get here by himself. Brian Colangelo took a chance on him initially, right? Raising him to that level. Then Denver takes a chance. The Cronkies, right? I believe they owned the team back then, right? And then Tim Lewicki, right? It took a lot of people to put him there. And now when he's there, now he's putting other people there. But you got to ask yourself, like for, regressive ownership groups, maybe ownership groups that have deep biases. Maybe they have a we only want Americans bias, right? Well, how are they interviewing or not interviewing a Greek candidate or a Chinese candidate, right? How does that bias then permeate throughout the rest of their roster? Time and time again, I have seen Masai Ujiri go for the unexpected. There's never a clear idea of how he's going to operate. It shocked the world when the Raptors picked Scotty Barnes. It did not shock me. I was obviously for it the whole way through, but it shocked the world that he would pass on this very, very obvious pick of Jalen Suggs for Scotty Barnes. I genuinely think he would have passed on Jalen Green for Scotty Barnes too. Why was it that he could see that in him? I think it shocked a lot of people that he picked Pascal Siakam over Skal Labissiere. How much does the hype that someone like Skal Labissiere, DeJuan Wagner, you look at all these hype prospects, Bronny James, right? Bronny James is on the board at 45, and all you've heard, your whole, for years and years is Bronny James, leading the NIL. It's got all these deals, whatever. How is that not supposed to color your perspective on who he is as a player? We talked about it yesterday on the assertion of values. Your assertion of values is you want to bring good people into your organization who are hard workers, who want to be great, who want to participate in winning. We want winners. We want workers. That's what Masai Ujiri says. We want winners and we want workers. You know what winners and workers are? They're great people. They're great players. They're great executives. So you want winners and you want workers, and you're willing to overlook all the other shit that doesn't matter. Age. Look at the diversity of lead candidates that the Raptors considered. If you believe the hype of JJ Redick and Steve Nash, notwithstanding. But Sergio Scariolo, a European coach who's 62 years old. And then you got Darko. You got Jordy. You got Becky. You got Ime. Like, even Ime Udoka, like consider there for a second, if he truly was their lead candidate, how many biases they had to overcome in order to give him that job, right? Let's be honest. That was not going to come without some controversy in Toronto, right? You had to oversee so many preconceived notions about what you feel about cheaters and people who've made mistakes. Hey, Goat, man, what's going on? Congratulations on all the success of your channel, man. Saw y'all past 3,000. You had a Jimmy Butler Miami Heat video with what was it, 108,000 views. It's crazy. It's great. Keep up the good work, man. I think that every organization in the world had a chance at Nikola Jokic. Why did such a classy organization find a way to get him? I think every organization could have had Pascal Siakam. Literally any organization could have had Fred VanVleet. I think most organizations could have traded up for OG Anunoby, and several did want to. But there's all these concerns about his injury and, will his athleticism come back? Certainly not something that warranted slipping 10 spots. But what did the Raptors see in OG Anunoby that other teams did not see? I think they saw a commitment to work. And I think they saw a person who wanted to win. And this is where it comes back to the assertion of values. Because if that's all you care about, you're willing to overlook a lot of other shit that really is secondary to the work. Because I think that the Raptors, more than anything, want to know, how are you going to respond to adversity? How are you going to respond to a tough conversation and tough times? How are you going to respond to being benched? I've often thought about why more executives can't borrow from the school of Masai Ujiri. Why is it not simple enough? We have a copycat league. Big three, big three, big three. Everyone now everyone wants a big three. We're going small ball. Now everyone wants to go small ball. Everyone wants to take their small forward and move them to power forward, and boom, now we're playing small ball. Boxing one. Now everyone wants to play boxing one. Switch everything. Drop under the screen. Stretch bigs. It's a copycat league. 7 seconds or less. Pace and space. Everyone's doing it. We clearly have triangle offense. Okay, let's try the triangle offense in New York now. This is a copycat league. Why are people having a difficult time copying what the Raptors do? Why do people have a difficult time implementing this system if it's so easy to draft these underrated prospects and these underrated gems, why doesn't everyone do it? If it's so easy to develop, then why doesn't everyone do it? I think it's because you have to understand the greatness and the hurdle of Masai Ujiri. You know, if you've understood his views on Africa, what is it? What is it? What does he always talk about? He talks about investment. You know, he was asked in a Forbes interview, where is he parking his money right now? Is it crypto? Is it, you know, Forex? And he said, Africa, baby, Africa. It's been the same thing with this guy for 10, 12 years now. Is his belief in the infrastructure, development of stadiums, sports, etc. in Africa. And it's not an obvious place. I mean, it is obvious if you understand, you know, the economics of the world. But to the average person, it's not obvious that Africa is a great place to invest. But it is. It is a fantastic place to invest. China understood this a long time ago. That is really where it comes from, isn't it? Seeing things before they're obvious is a superpower. Now, I talk about Scotty Barnes, his court vision. Masai Ujiri is the Scotty Barnes of executives. That's a funny statement, and someone's going to clip that. But or Scotty Barnes is the player of Masai Ujiri executive powers. I don't know. There's a talent of being able to see 2-3 years ahead, 2-3 plays ahead. There's a talent, and believe me, it makes you very successful and very rich if you can spot trends before they become trends. If you become you become the trendsetter. To be able to know at $32 a share that Tesla was going to be a multi-billion-dollar company, you know, to be able to listen to Elon Musk in those early days and see that he knew what he was doing with that. If you knew the expansion, if you saw the potential of what Amazon.com could become way back when, you'd be really rich. I owned Amazon stock at $100 a share. I owned it at $80 a share pre-split. So like, I mean, just I sold. But like, my point is to be able to identify these things before they happen, it requires you to see the not so obvious. It requires you to be an independent thinker. It requires you to have your own assertion of values. It requires you to be able to synthesize a whole bunch of information that maybe isn't commonly held information. And I think that it requires a really smart person. I think it requires a smart person not only to do this, to know that they have to do this, but also to know how to do it. And I think that so much of Masai Ujiri's path is what has made him who he is. And that may seem like a very obvious statement and a bit of a blanket statement at first, because for who is that not true? Everyone's path made them who they are. But I think his path is so unique and so brilliant that it has in fact emboldened him. And I think that his heart and his capacity, his empathy is a superpower. And I think that his empathy is what creates the listening, you know, because I think about that interview with Darko and I think about how many other teams had him on the top list of candidates. And I don't mean to, you know, toot my own horn here, but consider this channel and our big claim to fame at this point is being able to call a few things before they happen, right? Being able to call the Scotty Barnes stuff before it happens, being able to sort of call this shit show out in training camp last year, as opposed to waiting, you know, 55 games to call it out. You know, being able to correctly identify the potential of a Christian Coloco in the pre-draft process, et cetera. So it's like, what are you looking at? What are you seeing that other people aren't seeing? And this, of course, it requires a great deal of depth of knowledge about what you're looking at, of course, you know? And I think for Masai, it's like his knowledge is about humans, and his superpower is listening to them, asking the right questions. Asking the right questions as interviews process is super interesting and super important. But I think to myself, how many people had an interview with someone like Darko or some, and had an opportunity to bring him into their organization, and for one reason or not or another, didn't pick him. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm getting to some of these some of these questions here. Mark, love the deep thinking. It's awesome. Thanks for offering more than just numbers and X's and O's. Absolutely. I would love to get back to numbers, though. Let me be honest. Like, numbers are my comfort zone. This is a little bit uncomfortable for me at times, but um, leaning into uncomfortable is good as well. Um, any strategy can work with the right personnel. You can still have a scoring big inside. You can probably have success with mid-range shooters. You get guys to do it better than the rest. Um, in 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 theory, that is true. I do believe that you are right. Um, but I think it comes down to projectable and likely outcomes, right? Like I don't want to be having like myself cornered into, okay, well, I'm going to build this style of offense around this style of player, and now everything else had to be threaded at the 99th percentile outcome, and everything has to go perfectly for me, and I have to find the best player in the world to compensate for this. It becomes too complicated. I think you simplify things a lot more when you start um, leaning towards averages. Scott placed 2K. Well, there is like this Serbian pronunciation for it, which I don't think is going to be overly relevant. Um, so I think the English way to say his last name, um, when I say the English way, I mean like the corrected way, you know what I mean? Which is going to be possible for people, is like Rajakovic. Rajakovic. Like you have to sort of like the stretch is on the Akovic, you know? So Rajakovic is incorrect. Rajakovic isn't. I mean, you can say Rajakovic. I don't think he would stop you from that. But it's really like Rajakovic. Like it's almost like a yeah. Thank you, TR Mike. Yeah, so in closing, I just want to say that I have a lot of faith in I have a lot of faith in this and pride in this organization, and kind of going on and on about that for a few days. But I just wanted to acknowledge that yes, I think it's really amazing that the Raptors have given someone a chance that even I overlooked, um, because it was skin deep. I'm being honest, man. Like I'm being really honest. Like you listen to Jordy Fernandez talk, you listen to Becky Hammond talk. You know how fucking charismatic those two people are. Like just be real with yourself. Like I've mentioned this before. Like I'm not the type of person that's going to put my own people above other people. Like I don't give a shit that Jordy's from Spain. Um, Sergio's from Italy, but he's coaching in Spain. Darko is from Serbia, from Chachuk. Becky is, from the United States, but she's Russian initially. She's Russian. So in whatever case, you were going to get a European coach, right? But you understand, JJ is a podcaster. Like, I mean, I have something in common with every one of these people, right? To some extent. But I gotta be honest, like when you listen to Jordy Fernandez talk, like there is such a rich charisma. Even JJ Redick, you listen to JJ Redick talk, he's so dazzling, he's so charming, he's so well spoken, he's so articulate. It takes such a brilliant person to be able to see past that, to not get swept up in that, to not be dazzled by that, right? Do you know what I mean? Ime Udoka is also charismatic as fucking hell. Like that dude could sell water to a well. That's probably why he's in the situation he's in right now, to be honest. But he's so charismatic, right? He's tall, he's charismatic, he's a former NBA player, he connects with the players, he's got their trust. It's so easy. Some people just have it hard. Some people have it so fucking hard. There's such an uphill climb. If you've ever seen like a 5'5", kind of chubby, unattractive dude with like millions of dollars, please understand that dude fucking had no doors open for that guy. Like he had to work fucking so hard. Some people just have it easy. Some people have it hard. I believe this firmly. I've always believed. Here's how I'll cap this up. I always believed that really attractive people have more chances to open doors. You know what I mean? Like if you're super attractive as a man or as a woman, you will have endless dating opportunities. You may not have very good relationships, though. You may not have a single marriage that lasts, but you will have a date whenever the fuck you want it because someone is always going to get swept up in how you talk and how you walk and how you dress, etc. You got a lot of money, you will always find a friend. You will always find somebody who's willing to be your friend if you're rich. I think that's why people try to get rich because you never lonely when you're rich. You got a pool, you got a pool, you got a yacht, you got friends. They're not good friends. They may not be, they may not love you, they may not like you, but you got people in your life for sure. And I don't think people want to be broke because when you're broke, you find out who your real friends are. I think people try to avoid that outcome, try to find out who your real family members are, who your real friends are. I think for someone like Darko Rakovic to ascend to this point at 44, it is possibly one of the weirdest, most, and I think this story will change as he succeeds, and I have no doubt that he will succeed. I am 99.8% sure that he will succeed. Let me be clear about this. I'm not even 99.8% sure that I'm going to succeed. I'm like 91% sure Penn State basketball is going to succeed at this point. I'm more sure about his success as a head coach than I am about just about anything Raptors related right now. That might be overstating it a bit. Maybe dial it back, 99.2%. I am very sure that the person who approaches people the way that he does is going to succeed because I've never really seen someone like that fail in my whole life. I don't think I've ever seen a person who believes what he believes genuinely fail. I'm not saying he's going to win championships. I'm not saying he's going to win 3 championships or 1 championship. I'm not saying he's not going to be fired in 4 years. I'm just saying he won't fail. But I think that, yeah. I agree. Mason, that's not true though. Money don't buy happiness. Money does not buy happiness, but money does buy yachts. And yachts may not get you good friends, but they will find you friends. I promise you. There is no shortage. There are no shortage of people, especially in a world that is so superficially driven, that if you have a yacht, that you will not be able to find people to populate it. If you have booze in your house, you will find people to drink it. If you have money, you will find people to spend it. Trust me. Always. I've always, I think one of I call it like my biggest blessings in life is that I have been dirt poor. I have always considered that like one of my biggest blessings because I will never overlook someone for being poor ever in my life. I've been the other. So I try to think that I'm not ever going to overlook someone because they don't speak English, I've been the guy with crooked teeth. I've been the guy with the bad skin. I try not to be so superficial with people, but even still, it's hard. So that's why I appreciate Masai Ujiri so much, because he is able to see past things that even I am not able to see past. He is able to see past things that maybe no one else in the league can see past. He's able to see past your experience or lack of experience. He's able to just see what you're about. And that requires that wherewithal and understanding of different people, but also I think it requires a great deal of self-understanding that I imagine that Masai Ujiri has the most incredible grasp on who he is as a person, because I don't really think that you can see other people as well as he does until you know yourself. Again, anchoring bias real. So if you walk in with this like perception of this guy and you start judging his English or his inability to communicate, you might dispel him or dismiss him just on the basis of, well, will he be able to connect to the players because, you know, maybe they'll laugh at them. Look, man, like we've all been in high school. We, you know, there are people who get laughed at for their accent all the fucking time. I appreciate, you know, some of you people are coming up in a more woke society than I did, but damn it, like it was true. Like when we were young, I mean, I'm 35 years old, so you can imagine, do the math, like when I went to grade school, high school, etc. I mean, there were people who got made fun of for a plethora of reasons. Oh, they're ESL, they don't speak English very well. You know, they're chubby, they don't play basketball super well. There's so many. They're awkward, they smell, they live in poor housing. Like people get made fun of for a plethora of reasons. And you know, having a deep, thick accent and being like this excitable little guy, um, it'd be very easy for someone like Masai Ujiri to be like, the players will never take someone like this seriously. It takes something to be able to see past that initial reaction. And I think it's really telling that the Raptors very quickly admitted, or Bobby Webster admitted, that Darko Rajakovic was not someone that they looked at initially. Like he was not the head candidate in the beginning. He was not leading candidate, but he dazzled them in the interview. Why? Because they listened. Because they listened. So I think that it would be very good as we move into draft coverage, likely tomorrow. We start draft coverage tomorrow, that we start looking at things that other people are missing. And consider all the prospects in this draft and start asking yourself, why are they being overlooked? Nick Smith Jr., he is being overlooked because of injuries and a not great season. A lot of potential, though, right? Keontae George being overlooked because of lack of wingspan, lack of positional fit. I mean, some people are being overlooked for correct reasons for some reason, but I think it would be good to open it up to beyond in the box thinking, because I think obviously in the box thinking, you're like, the Raptors are going to pick exactly the same type of guy that they've always picked. So Bilal Coulibaly is the guy, or there's no way that the Raptors are ever going to pass up on Emin Thompson or Azor Thompson if they drop. Or the Raptors will definitely pick Anthony Black because they picked Scotty Barnes at some point and they're very similar players. Or the Raptors will never pick someone like Grady Dick or Jordan Hawkins because they have shown that they don't like those types of players, et cetera, in the past. Again, when I look at other general managers, when I look at other presidents, when I look at other executives, they all have biases. I have seen it. I have spotted it. I've looked at the trend lines. Oh, this executive really, really likes players from blue blood schools. This executive overstresses and overvalues players who've had national success, like national team success, or they've won a national title in college basketball or something. Like they overvalue that for some reason. This executive really likes wingspan. This executive really likes, you know, tall white guys. This executive really likes foreign prospects. You know what I mean? Like these biases do exist. Sometimes the bias exists because the other bias exists. You know, I think if you're a team that is open to and keenly aware of how to develop foreign prospects, then that's a competitive advantage if there ever was one in the NBA. Because just like in these interviews, I mean, you think about someone like Bilal Coulibaly, and you know, I gotta be honest, I haven't heard him speak at length. I've seen a little bit, but I've listened to him speak in French, and I do speak a little bit of French, and I've listened to him speak and express himself in French, and he is a very impressive person. Like his commitment to growth and greatness. I mean, he is like, it's very Scotty-esque, you know? Hmm. Hi, M. Dirks. Rob, how many hours you've been sleeping these past few days? Um, 5 to 7, 5 to 6. Oh no, we're not talking Raptors freak anymore, are we? Can we please stop giving that guy any more attention? He does not deserve it. All right. Anyways, I just wanted to say that, again, to cap this off, very proud to be a Raptor fan. Very proud of this team. Really happy to see it turning back around. And I think that this is something that we can all adopt in our own lives. So if you're someone who's going on dates. If you're someone who's hiring people, try to think outside the box. There's something to learn here for sure for all of us. Certainly something that I learned about myself where I found myself, dismissing, my own countryman on the basis of his accent, the way he looks, the way he talks, and the fact that, these other people were just way more charming. And I just thought that was hilarious and ironic for a million different reasons. Um, and I guess I just wanted to admit that. It's a learning experience for sure. But it's, this learning experience has just given me a great deal more, let's say, appreciation for Masai Ujiri. And I gotta be honest, like in the 12 years, 10 years, 10, 11 years that he's been here, I have learned a tremendous amount by listening to this man speak all the time. Like every time he speaks, I'm learning something new. I know a lot of people clown on him and they say, oh, he's going to mention evaluating and winning and whatever. Well, maybe sometimes winning takes evaluating. And when you're really passionate about things, you do tend to repeat yourself a couple times. So anyway, have a good one, guys. Have a great day. Let me know in the comments below once this video goes live. We've done, I'll say a little bit. We've done a lot of bit actually at this point on Jordan Hawkins, and we've done a little bit on Bilal Coulibaly. But if there is a prospect or a series of prospects that you want me to do a video on, I think I am, I have the time to do that today and tomorrow. And I believe I'll be able to start putting out these draft prospect videos. So once this video goes live, drop a comment below and let me know which prospect you think might be a Masai Ujiri guy. What prospect do you think maybe we're overlooking because for one reason or another, they're not like big time on the consensus mocks, and maybe the Raptors just are willing to take a chance, see something that other people aren't seeing? Or is there just a prospect that you think maybe, is very highly touted in the mocks because of how they interview, or maybe some controversy around them, or maybe how they look, etc., they might drop a little bit, right? I felt that Kaysen might drop because he measured a little bit smaller. That was my thought process. I was like, oh man, he's actually going to fall to 13 and we're going to sweep him up and we're going to be the happiest franchise in the world. But the one thing with the Raptors that I've realized, especially with lottery picks, is it usually does not break the way that people think it's going to break. And so, with the number of people mocking Bilal and Kaysen to the Raptors, I'm just like, oh man, it's going to be something like Nick Smith, isn't it? So anyway. Wait, what? Bryce Sensabaugh? You're not the first person to bring that up, eh? He is young, and he is very talented. Interesting. Of course, Ginobili's an all-time great. If Kobe Buffkin turns with Mimanu, that would be a huge win at 13. But what's his playmaking upside in the NBA as a lefty, Ginobili or Luke Kennard? I don't think it's either, to be honest. But I see a little bit of Ginobili in Kobe Buffkin for sure. I also see a little bit of Tyrese Maxey. I like him. I think his shooting will come along. Thank you, man. This is actually something really funny because I'm seeing like the name Kobe everywhere, and I'm just like, man, are people getting a little bit too enamored with this, right? A little bit, just a little bit. And trust me, this bias thing exists in all walks of life, especially anything that's very front facing. I see this with actors all the time. There's actors that we have clearly overlooked because they didn't fit a certain look or a certain age or whatever. And I mean, I get it. You need actors to be fitting a certain age or whatever. But yeah, there are definitely some actors that I've overlooked. It's funny. I'll give you an example. There was this one actress that we overlooked for an audition in 2017 because her nose was a little bit crooked, and I thought that would be really difficult on camera to and it just you needed the character to be attractive. And it's just like, who the hell am I to say this that someone with a crooked nose isn't attractive? You know what I mean? Like this small shit like that. And I just wonder how many people overlooked her because she is brilliant. I saw her in a stage play. I was just like, oh my God, I passed up on the opportunity to work with this person. I'm so stupid. Like she was great. She was great in that, and she's been great in everything. And subsequently, she ended up getting a nose job afterwards, and now everyone wants to hire her. And I just thought it was hilarious that something so small could impact someone's career so greatly. Yeah. They're going to select Leonard Miller. I am very, very, very comfortable saying they are not going to select Leonard Miller. But watch him be the guy, right? I don't think so. I think his motor has been inconsistent. His focus on defense has been inconsistent. And when I listen to him talk, it does not strike me as the type of person who would dazzle Masai Ujiri in an interview in any way. There are certain people that, when you listen to them talk, you're like, okay, this is the type of person that's really, really going to impress Masai. And that's how I felt about Scotty when I really started digging into his stuff. It's funny, like my first impression of Scotty was also not great. My first impression of him, like way back when, we're talking, I was like U16 or something. And he was kind of like Gumby. He's all arms and legs, and he was a little bit goofy, and he's flexing his arms and whatever. And my first thought process was, who does this guy think he is? That was my very first impression of Scotty Barnes. I remember it very clearly. And then I listened to his interview afterwards, and he was so soft-spoken and so humble, and he like talked about his team, and I was just like, oh, okay, I like this guy. He's just competitive. He's just a fiery guy. Sometimes you really do have to listen to people talk. This is really why I have been sort of sour on Brandon Miller the entire way through. And again, that's not everything, but it is something. How people express themselves, their body language, their mannerisms, the things that they want to talk about, the way that they respond to questions, I think is a very important part of the process. I'm not impressed with Leonard Miller at all. Kobe's mom certainly got it right with that name. Absolutely. Anyways, guys, have a great day. Have a wonderful. It's a bit rainy, right? But I'm glad it didn't rain yesterday. I thought it was pretty bold, given how many showers we have seen in Toronto recently, for them to do a press conference outside. And when I read that email, it was like, be prepared to be outside. And then I called the Raptors ticket office, and I was just like, hey, is the presser going to be outside? And they were just like, yes, it is going to be outside. I thought it was great. It was a very sunny day, but it's not now. So yeah. Anyways, have a good one, guys, and make sure to hit sub up. I think we're edging in to 5,400 subscribers, which is pretty cool, pretty dope. Let's get it up, and yeah, have a great one. Thanks for the live, Rob. Great as usual. See you, man.